Evelyn stood by the sunlit window of her quaint little cottage in Ashford, a small town nestled in the English countryside. The early morning light spilled across her pale skin, casting a warm glow that seemed to awaken something long dormant within her. She adjusted the loose cotton dress she'd chosen that day, soft cream fabric that clung delicately to her curves, falling just above the knees, paired with simple tan sandals that revealed freshly painted nails. A thin silver necklace with a tiny locket caught the light as she moved her head, the only piece of jewelry she wore. It was an effortless look, but beneath the easy grace lay a tension she struggled to ignore. That morning, as on many mornings before, she found herself acutely aware of a presence just outside her garden gate. The neighbor's son, Jamie Turner, was leaning casually against the faded white picket fence, his eyes fixed on her with an intensity that made her heart race and her breath catch. Jamie wasn't the boy she remembered from years ago, the skateboard-wielding 14-year-old who'd once been the neighborhood's mischievous prankster. Now he was a man, tall with broad shoulders, his sandy hair tousled perfectly as if he'd just stepped out of a magazine shoot. His green eyes held a kind of reckless confidence that made Evelyn feel both dangerously vulnerable and alive. At first, she had told herself it was nothing, just a fleeting glance, a flicker of curiosity from a young man. But it happened more often, day after day, until one afternoon she caught him watching her not just with idle interest but as if he were studying her, trying to unravel some hidden truth. There was something electric about the way he looked, unblinking, direct, almost as if he was searching for a secret she hadn't even admitted to herself. Evelyn's life had long been a carefully maintained facade. Married to Aaron, a successful but distant solicitor who spent more time in boardrooms and courtrooms than at home, she had settled into the role of the polished, poised wife. Their home in Ashford was the picture-perfect depiction of suburban English life. Manicured hedges, pastel-painted walls, and an immaculate garden where roses bloomed with an almost unnatural precision. Yet beneath the surface, the silence between Evelyn and Aaron was deafening. Their conversations were limited to logistics, bills, schedules, errands, with none of the warmth or intimacy that once had filled their early years together. Evelyn remembered who she had been before the marriage and the monotony swallowed her whole. She had been a vibrant art teacher in a nearby town, someone who laughed loud and lived even louder. But over the years, she had become a ghost in her own life. A woman who wore neutral tones and careful smiles to hide the emptiness inside. Her days were punctuated by quiet lunches with other women who seemed just as lonely, their conversations revolving around the latest local gossip and the weather. Never their true feelings, but Jamie's presence stirred something long buried. He was a reminder of life's unpredictable sparks, the kind that set your heart aflame without warning. One afternoon, Evelyn found herself outside beneath the old oak tree in her garden, bathed in the golden hues of a late summer sunset. Her fingers traced absent patterns on the bark, as she tried to convince herself she wasn't thinking about him. Yet the memory of his gaze, so unwavering and raw, kept pulling her back. Suddenly, the back door creaked open, and there he was, Jamie, stepping into the garden with the casual confidence of someone who belonged nowhere but exactly where he was. "You're going to burn," he said softly, his deep voice vibrating through the quiet air. Evelyn's heart skipped a beat. She opened her eyes fully and met his gaze, the sunlight catching the edges of his face, highlighting the determination in his eyes. "I'm fine," she whispered, though her voice cracked, betraying her calm. He smiled, a slow, knowing smile that made her cheeks flush. "Don't deny it," he teased lightly. "You're already glowing," she laughed, a sound she hadn't heard from herself in years, and in that moment their fingers brushed, a brief electric contact that sent a shiver down her spine. The world seemed to tilt, just slightly, as if time itself acknowledged the shift. Days passed without a word from Jamie, and Evelyn found herself restless, her mind drifting like a leaf in the wind. She checked her phone compulsively, glanced toward the fence and wondered if he was watching. Then one evening Aaron came home earlier than usual. The house felt strangely charged as they sat down to dinner on the back patio, the cool evening air filled with the scent of freshly cut grass and summer blooms. Aaron spoke about a case at work, his voice steady but distracted, while Evelyn's eyes kept drifting toward the window that looked out onto Jamie's garden. "You're awfully quiet tonight," Aaron said, reaching for her hand across the table. For a moment, the weight of everything crashed down on her, love, regret, longing, and she admitted softly, "I'm just tired." Aaron nodded, but the distance between them had never felt wider. The next morning, Evelyn found an envelope slipped under the front door. Inside was a ticket to an art exhibit she'd mentioned to Aaron months ago, but he had forgotten. The handwriting was unfamiliar. It was Jamie. Her heart pounded as she traced the elegant script with trembling fingers. She told Aaron she was meeting friends, another lie, and slipped out to the gallery. Jamie was there, standing by a painting, his smile warm and expectant. "You came," he said simply. "I did," she replied, her voice barely a whisper. They wandered through the exhibit together, talking about art, dreams, and the lives they led. Over coffee at a quiet cafe, Jamie remembered every detail of how she liked her drink. A small act that made her feel seen in a way she hadn't in years. Their conversation stretched on for hours, and when he gently brushed a strand of hair behind her ear, she didn't pull away. When she returned home, Aaron asked about her day. She gave him a name, a fictional friend, and he didn't question it. But Evelyn knew the lies were piling up like storm clouds. Then came the stormy Thursday when Jamie appeared at her door, soaked from the rain. "We need to talk," he said urgently. Inside, he told her about a research project he was leaving for, a chance to start fresh somewhere new. "Come with me," he urged. Evelyn looked into his eyes and saw a future bathed in light and color, far from the shadows that had haunted her. But the past held her fast. "I can't," she whispered. "Why not?" he asked. "You're not happy here." He wasn't wrong. But the chains of her life were heavier than she cared to admit. Suddenly, the front door opened. Aaron stepped inside, holding a battered mailbox, pausing as he took in the scene. The scattered tea, the broken silence, Jamie standing too close. "Get out," Aaron said coldly, not to her, but to Jamie. Jamie left without a word, casting one last look over his shoulder before the door slammed shut. Aaron's voice was low and broken. "How long?" Evelyn couldn't answer, because even she didn't know. That night in the guest room, with rain tapping softly against the window, Evelyn faced the truth she'd hidden from herself. She hadn't wanted Jamie. She wanted to feel alive again. A message from Jamie blinked on her phone. "I still want you to come." She typed and deleted replies, unsure if she had the courage to face the storm ahead. Outside, the house creaked with secrets as the night deepened, and somewhere, beneath the quiet sky of Ashford, a question lingered. How far would Evelyn go to reclaim the woman she had lost? The morning light filtered softly through the sheer curtains of Evelyn's guest room, casting pale stripes across the cluttered wooden floor. The room was a quiet sanctuary of forgotten things. A half-finished self-portrait leaned against the wall, its rough brushstrokes capturing a woman both fragile and fierce. Old sketchbooks lay open, their pages yellowed with time, and a small battered easel stood in the corner, waiting for inspiration. Evelyn lay still beneath the rumpled duvet, her mind a whirlpool of memories and regrets. Aaron's footsteps echoed faintly down the hallway, tentative and unfamiliar. She heard him pause outside the door, then the faint scrape of a chair as he sat on the edge of the bed. For a moment the silence stretched between them, heavy, charged, filled with unspoken words. "I spoke to a counselor," Aaron said finally, his voice rougher than she expected. "Someone who might help us. Or at least help me understand." Evelyn blinked, surprised. It was the first time in years that Aaron had offered more than cold distance or avoidance. But instead of relief, a knot tightened in her chest. Could they really find a way back from this chasm? Or was this just another step toward the inevitable? "I don't want this," she whispered, the words barely audible. "Neither do I," he replied, "but we made decisions, Evelyn. We can't ignore them." She closed her eyes, picturing the life that had slowly unraveled, the quiet dinners, the empty bed, the faded laughter. Yet beneath the pain was a stubborn ember of hope she hadn't dared to acknowledge. Later that day, Evelyn wandered through the village of Ashford, the familiar streets seeming both comforting and suffocating. The summer sun was warm on her skin, but a cool breeze tugged at the hem of her light blouse. She stopped at the small art supply shop at the corner, its windows fogged with paint and possibilities. Inside, the bell tinkled cheerfully as she entered. "Back for more torture, then?" joked Mr. Pritchard, the elderly shopkeeper, his eyes twinkling behind round spectacles. Evelyn smiled, a genuine one this time. "I suppose I can't help myself." She picked up a set of oil paints, their vibrant colors promising new beginnings. The deep crimson reminded her of the late sunsets she and Jamie had watched, the way the sky seemed to set itself ablaze. As she paid, Mr. Pritchard winked. "Remember, Miss Max, some mistakes are just brushstrokes on the canvas. You can always paint over them." The words lingered with her, a bittersweet reminder that life's messes might be softened but never erased. That evening, she sat alone in the dim light of the kitchen, sketchpad open but untouched. Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Her fingers trembled as she opened it. "Meet me at the Crown, 8 p.m. No games. It was Jamie. Evelyn debated replying. 1,000 doubts crowded her mind. Was this a trap? A cruel joke? Or a chance at something real? Finally, she typed back, "Why?" "Because there's more to say than texts." The Crown was a centuries-old pub nestled on the edge of Ashford's village green, its dark wooden beams and low ceilings a refuge from the modern world. Evelyn arrived early, the soft chime of the door announcing her entrance. The air was thick with the scent of ale and polished oak, mingling with laughter and the clink of glasses. She spotted Jamie immediately, seated in a shadowed corner booth. His shirt sleeves were rolled up, revealing forearms dusted with freckles. His hair was damp from the rain that had started again, and his eyes held a seriousness that made her stomach flutter. "Thanks for coming," he said quietly. Evelyn slid into the seat opposite him, her heart pounding. "You sounded urgent." Jamie nodded. "I am. I don't want to be the reason you fall apart. But I also can't pretend I'm not part of it." They talked for hours, words tumbling out like a flood. Jamie confessed his own struggles. His fear of leaving Ashford, the pressure of expectations, the way he'd watched Evelyn from afar, admiring and longing. He wasn't perfect, far from it, but there was an honesty in his voice that cut through the fog of Evelyn's confusion. At one point, he reached across the table, his hand brushing hers. The contact was electric, sending warmth spiraling through her veins. She looked down at their fingers entwined, then back up into his eyes, which were alight with something fierce and tender. "I'm not asking you to run away," he said softly. "Just to be honest with yourself, with me." Evelyn swallowed hard. For so long she'd hidden behind masks and half-truths. Now, faced with the raw possibility of change, she felt both terrified and exhilarated. As the pub began to empty, Jamie stood, helping her with her coat. Outside, the rain had eased, leaving the streets glistening under the street lamps. "Will I see you again?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Jamie smiled, a mischievous glint returning. "Only if you want to," she laughed, a sound full of hope and hesitation. "I think I might." But as they parted ways, Evelyn couldn't shake the feeling that something was lurking just beyond the edges of this fragile new connection. A secret Jamie hadn't yet revealed. A truth that could shatter everything. Back inside her cottage, Evelyn found a folded note slipped under her door. With trembling hands she unfolded it. Written in hurried scrawl were 3 words. "Beware the mirror." Her breath caught. Outside, the wind howled through the trees, carrying with it the promise of storms yet to come. The chill of the evening clung to Evelyn's skin as she stood by the frosted window of her kitchen, the faded wallpaper casting faint shadows in the lamplight. The note's cryptic warning, "Beware the mirror," echoed in her mind, each word a puzzle piece that refused to fit neatly. She turned the paper over, searching for a signature, a clue, but found nothing. Just the stark message, scrawled hastily, as if the writer had been interrupted, or afraid. Her reflection stared back at her from the glass, pale and uncertain, framed by the soft curls of chestnut hair that she usually tied back. Tonight, her loose blouse hung open at the collar, revealing just the hint of delicate lace beneath, a whisper of vulnerability she rarely allowed herself. The soft fabric clung to her arms, the bare skin catching the dim light, a subtle contrast to the turmoil roiling inside. Evelyn's fingers brushed the cold window pane, as if trying to touch the other side, to reach beyond the glass and understand the warning. Was it about Jamie? About Aaron? Or something far more elusive, some hidden fracture in the life she thought she knew? Her phone buzzed again, piercing the silence. She hesitated before answering, her heart pounding like a drumbeat in her ears. "Evelyn," Jamie's voice came, low and urgent. "We need to talk. Please. Tomorrow." The old mill on Mill Lane. Noon. The old mill, a relic of Ashford's industrial past, long abandoned, its weathered bricks and broken windows a stark contrast to the manicured village streets. It was the kind of place where secrets festered. Evelyn's pulse quickened. The place gave her the creeps, but the tone in Jamie's voice left no room for refusal. "I'll be there," she whispered. The next day dawned gray and overcast, a soft drizzle blurring the edges of the countryside. Evelyn dressed carefully, choosing a fitted trench coat over a simple emerald green dress that hugged her waist and flared slightly at the skirt. Her black ankle boots clicked softly on the pavement as she made her way toward Mill Lane, the dampness curling in her dark hair as she approached. The mill loomed ahead, its silhouette a jagged scar against the sky. Ivy clung desperately to the crumbling walls, and shattered panes reflected the dull light like broken eyes. She hesitated at the rusted gate, then pushed it open with a creak that seemed to shatter the stillness. Jamie was waiting inside, standing beneath the skeletal remains of a great oak beam. His face was shadowed, eyes dark and troubled. When he saw her, relief flickered across his features. "I'm glad you came," he said, voice steady despite the storm in his eyes. They stepped deeper into the mill, the floorboards groaning beneath their feet. Dust motes swirled in the shafts of light that pierced the broken roof. Evelyn's breath caught when they reached a cracked mirror propped against a wall, its surface mottled and warped with age. "Why here?" she asked. Jamie's gaze fixed on the mirror. "Because this place holds more than memories. It's where I found something. Something I think you need to see." He stepped forward and wiped a section of the glass, revealing a clear reflection. Evelyn looked and for a moment saw only herself. Tired eyes, a hesitant smile, the faint lines of worry etched into her skin. Then slowly the image shifted. The reflection changed, showing scenes she didn't remember. A younger version of herself, laughing with a man who wasn't Aaron, painting with wild abandon, her eyes bright with unguarded joy. The mirror revealed fragments of a past she had buried beneath layers of duty and denial. "Who's that man?" Evelyn whispered. Jamie's voice was barely audible. "That's you before everything fell apart. Before the lies, before the silence." A sudden sharp noise shattered the moment. A loose shutter banging against the wall. Evelyn jumped, heart racing. "What else does it show?" she asked, voice trembling. Jamie looked away, conflicted. "Things I wished I didn't know. Things about your life, Aaron's life. And about me." She frowned, confusion swirling with suspicion. "What do you mean?" Before he could answer, the sound of a car door slamming outside cut through the stillness. Both turned toward the entrance just as Aaron appeared, his face pale, eyes flashing with anger and pain. "You're playing a dangerous game, Evelyn," he said, voice low but sharp. "This isn't just about you or me." Jamie stepped forward, fists clenched. "Maybe it's about all of us." Aaron's gaze hardened. "You don't belong here." Evelyn felt the weight of their standoff press down on her, the two men representing the fractured pieces of her life, one the past, one the uncertain future. As the rain began to fall harder, drumming on the broken roof above, Evelyn realized she was standing at a crossroads, where truth and deception collided, where choices would shatter or save her. And in the depths of the cracked mirror, the faintest glimmer of something else stirred. A secret waiting to be uncovered, a mystery that could change everything. The door slammed shut behind them, locking them inside the mill, the storm outside mirroring the tempest within. Evelyn's breath caught as the shadows deepened, and she knew that nothing would ever be the same again. The stale air inside the old mill was thick with tension, mingling with the faint scent of damp wood and rust. Rain hammered relentlessly against the broken roof, each drop echoing like a ticking clock counting down to an inevitable moment. Evelyn stood frozen between Aaron and Jamie, caught in the center of a battle she hadn't anticipated, but could no longer avoid. Aaron's eyes burned with a cold fury as he took a step toward Jamie. "You've crossed the line, Jamie. This obsession, this intrusion, it ends here." Jamie squared his shoulders, his green eyes flashing defiantly. "Obsession? You mean seeing the truth? Something you've been too blind to face." Evelyn's heart pounded so loudly she was certain they could hear it over the storm. She looked from one man to the other, realizing that neither held all the answers, but both carried pieces of a fractured past she tried desperately to forget. "I don't want to fight," she said, voice steady despite the chaos inside. "I just want to understand." Aaron scoffed, running a hand through his dark hair, damp from the rain. "Understanding won't fix what's broken, Evelyn. You think this fantasy with Jamie changes anything? Our life, our history." Jamie stepped closer, voice low but firm. "It's not a fantasy. It's a wake-up call. Evelyn's been asleep for too long." Evelyn swallowed hard, the weight of their words settling over her like a heavy fog. She glanced back at the cracked mirror, the distorted reflection still shimmering faintly in the dim light. The images it had shown her haunted her thoughts. The laughter, the love, the freedom she'd buried beneath years of quiet desperation. "I'm tired of pretending," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "Tired of living a life that's not mine." Aaron's jaw tightened. "And what? You think Jamie can give you that life? You think it's that simple?" Jamie shook his head. "No one can give it to her. She has to take it back." The room seemed to shrink, the storm outside intensifying as if mirroring the tempest within. Evelyn's fingers trembled as she reached out, brushing a loose strand of hair behind her ear. The emerald dress clung to her curves, damp from the rain and the sweat of anxiety. Her black boots were scuffed from the gravel outside, grounding her in the moment enough, she said, surprising herself with the firmness in her tone. "I'm done being the silent observer in my own life." Aaron's eyes softened for a fleeting second, but then hardened again. "You don't know what you're risking." "I do," Evelyn replied. "And I'm willing to face it." Jamie smiled, a mixture of relief and admiration shining through his exhaustion. "That's all I ever wanted to hear." Suddenly, a sharp crack echoed through the mill, the sound of splintering wood as a section of the ancient roof gave way. Dust and debris rained down, forcing them to duck instinctively. When the dust settled, a narrow beam of sunlight pierced the gloom, illuminating the mirror. But now the reflection was different. In the glass, Evelyn saw not just herself, but a shadowy figure standing behind her. Faceless, indistinct, yet undeniably present. Her breath caught. "Who's that?" Aaron's face paled. It's impossible." Jamie took a cautious step forward. "It's the past? Or maybe the truth trying to break through." The three of them stared, bound together by a secret older than any of them dared to admit. The shadow in the mirror seemed to pulse, growing clearer. A woman's silhouette, her features blurred but her presence undeniable. Evelyn's voice shook. "What do you want from me?" The mirror's surface rippled like water, and then, as suddenly as it appeared, the figure vanished. The room fell silent except for the relentless rain. Jamie broke the silence. "We're not just dealing with lies and broken promises anymore. There's something else, something deeper." Aaron looked at Evelyn, eyes searching. "We need to find out what. Together." Evelyn nodded, a strange mixture of fear and determination settling over her. The life she thought she knew was unraveling, and beyond the storm lay a mystery that could either destroy them all or set them free. As they left the mill, the rain eased, and the first timid rays of dawn broke through the clouds. But in Evelyn's heart, a question burned brighter than the morning light. What was the secret hidden behind the mirror, and how far was she willing to go to uncover it? The answer, she knew, would change everything. The morning sun struggled to break through the heavy gray clouds as Evelyn stepped out of the mill, the dampness clinging to her trench coat and settling in her bones. The air smelled of wet earth and fresh beginnings, but inside, she felt anything but renewed. The shadow in the mirror haunted her thoughts, a specter of the past, or perhaps a warning she couldn't yet decipher. Aaron and Jamie followed closely behind, their footsteps muted on the slick cobblestones of Mill Lane. The silence between them was thick, punctuated only by the distant rumble of thunder and the drip-drip of water from the eaves. "We need to figure out what that was," Aaron said finally, breaking the silence. His voice was quieter now, stripped of its earlier anger. "If it's connected to your past, to your family, I'm willing to help." Jamie nodded in agreement, though his eyes held a cautious wariness. "But it's not just about Evelyn's past. There's something bigger here, something that's been hidden for a long time." Evelyn looked ahead, the winding road leading to the heart of Ashford. The village, with its quaint cottages and cobbled streets, seemed peaceful, untouched by the storm raging inside her. Yet she knew appearances could be deceiving. Back at her cottage, Evelyn closed the door behind her and leaned against it, the weight of the morning's revelations pressing down. She slipped out of her damp coat, revealing the deep emerald dress that still clung to her curves, the fabric soft and cool against her skin. The dress was simple but elegant, an echo of the woman she once was, and perhaps a hint of the woman she hoped to become. Her eyes drifted to the antique mirror hanging in the hallway, a family heirloom passed down through generations. It was ornate, its gilded frame carved with delicate roses and ivy, but the glass was slightly warped, distorting reflections in a way that felt almost unnatural. Evelyn's fingers traced the cool surface, and a shiver ran down her spine. What secrets did it hold? What stories had it witnessed? Determined to uncover the truth, she pulled out a worn leather journal from a drawer. a relic from her childhood filled with faded handwriting and pressed flowers. Flipping through the delicate pages, she found entries from her grandmother, cryptic notes that hinted at family secrets and whispered warnings. One passage caught her eye. The mirror holds more than reflections. It holds the truth we fear to face. Beware what you see, for some truths are shadows dressed as light. A sudden knock at the door startled her. She opened it to find Mrs. Fletcher, the elderly neighbor from down the lane, clutching a basket of freshly baked scones. "I thought you might like these," Mrs. Fletcher said with a warm smile, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. Evelyn returned the smile, grateful for the distraction. As they settled in the cozy sitting room, the scent of baking mingled with the faint aroma of rain. "You look like you've seen a ghost, dear," Mrs. Fletcher remarked, her eyes twinkling with a mix of curiosity and concern. Evelyn hesitated, then decided to share a fraction of the truth. "There's something strange about the mirror in the old mill. Something I can't explain." Mrs. Fletcher's expression grew serious. The mill. It's been a source of stories for generations. Old Ashford holds many secrets, some better left undisturbed. Evelyn leaned forward, intrigued. "What kind of secrets?" Mrs. Fletcher lowered her voice to a whisper. "Legends of lost souls and forgotten promises. And that mirror. It's said to reveal more than just your reflection. Some say it shows the path you're meant to take, while others believe it can trap you in the past." Evelyn shivered, the weight of those words settling deep inside her. "Be careful, Evelyn," Mrs. Fletcher warned gently. "Sometimes the hardest truths are the ones we must face alone." As Mrs. Fletcher left, Evelyn felt a newfound resolve. The path ahead was uncertain, fraught with danger and heartbreak, but she knew she couldn't turn back. That night, as the village drifted into quiet slumber, Evelyn sat by her window, the moonlight casting silver shadows across her face. Her phone buzzed, a message from Jamie. "Meet me tomorrow. I found something. It's time." Her heart raced. Whatever lay ahead, Evelyn knew this was only the beginning. Outside, the wind whispered through the trees, carrying secrets that had waited too long to be heard.